Brought to you by Penguin.
In Order to Live, A North Korean Girl's Journey to Freedom by Yeonmi Park, read for you by Eji Kim. We tell ourselves stories in order to live. Joan Didion. In Order to Live. Prologue. On the cold, black night of the 31st of March, 2007, my mother and I scrambled down the steep, rocky bank of the frozen Yalu River that divides North Korea and China. There were patrols above us and below, and guard posts 100 yards on either side of us, manned by soldiers ready to shoot anyone attempting to cross the border. We had no idea what would come next, but we were desperate to get to China, where there might be a chance to survive. I was 13 years old and weighed only 60 pounds. Just a week earlier, I had been in a hospital in my hometown of Haesan, along the Chinese border, suffering from a severe intestinal infection that the doctors had mistakenly diagnosed as appendicitis. I was still in terrible pain from the incision and was so weak I could barely walk. The young North Korean smuggler who was guiding us across the border insisted we had to go that night. He had paid some guards to look the other way, but he couldn't bribe all the soldiers in the area, so we had to be extremely cautious. I followed him in the darkness, but I was so unsteady that I had to scoot down the bank on my bottom, sending small avalanches of rocks crashing ahead of me. He turned and whispered angrily for me to stop making so much noise, but it was too late. We could see the silhouette of a North Korean soldier climbing up from the riverbed. If this was one of the bribed border guards, he didn't seem to recognize us. "Go back," the soldier shouted. "Get out of here." Our guide scrambled down to meet him, and we could hear them talking in hushed voices. Our guide returned alone. "Let's go," he said. "Hurry." It was early spring, and the weather was getting warmer, melting patches of the frozen river. The place where we crossed was steep and narrow, protected from the sun during the day, so it was still solid enough to hold our weight, we hoped. Our guides made a cell phone call to someone on the other side, the Chinese side, and then whispered, "Run." The guide started running, but my feet would not move, and I clung to my mother. I was so scared that I was completely paralyzed. The guide ran back for us, grabbed my hands, and dragged me across the ice. When we reached solid ground, we started running and didn't stop until we were out of sight of the border guards. The riverbank was dark, but the lights of Chiangbai, China, glowed just ahead of us. I turned to take a quick glance back at the place where I was born. The electric power grid was down as usual, and all I could see was a black, lifeless horizon. I felt my heart pounding out of my chest as we arrived at a small shack on the edge of some flat, vacant fields. I wasn't dreaming of freedom when I escaped from North Korea. I didn't even know what it meant to be free. All I knew was that if my family stayed behind, we would probably die. From starvation, from disease, from the inhuman conditions of a prison labor camp. The hunger had become unbearable. I was willing to risk my life for the promise of a bowl of rice. But there was more to our journey than our own survival. My mother and I was searching for my older sister Eunmi, who had left for China a few days earlier and had not been heard from since. We hoped that she would be there waiting for us when we crossed the river. Instead, the only person to greet us was a bold, middle-aged Chinese man, an ethnic North Korean like many of the people living in the border area. The man said something to my mother.
"Sample complete.
Ready to continue?